Hello everyone and welcome back to Talk to Trish show today. I'm very excited about our topic today, although I have to do a trigger warning. There's going to be some content that consists of rape or sexual violation. So without further ado, let's proceed. I have some amazing ladies with me today and we're actually so excited and ready to have this conversation, which we needed to have a long time ago anyway. So let me introduce the ladies on the panel. Starting, as always, I'm going to tell you their name and they get to tell you what they choose to tell you about themselves, okay? So the first beautiful lady right beside me, this is Esther.
Hello, my name's Esther and I review TV and film, and I'm also a sex podcaster. Yes.
Listen to her.
Hi guys.
There you go. She's already in.
Hi guys.
She knows what she's got to
Just
do.
me.
This is Maya. I'm sure
again.
you've seen her before.
Hi guys, my name is Maya Ojo Ilunga. I'm a life coach and events and entertainment manager.
And this is B.
Hi guys, my name is B. I am a sex positivity podcaster. My podcast is called Broken Pussy and you should check it out.
Did you guys hear that? Broken pussy.
Broken pussy.
You can say the word.
You can say the word.
Should we all say it?
Broken Pussy.
Broken pussy. You heard it.
Hear, hear.
Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the topic for today. The topic for today is consent. Very important one. This is something we hear about. Some people understand it, but it seems like a lot of people don't seem to understand what it is. So just before we get started, let me give the definition which I found on the internet. Very simple. What is consent? Consent is permission for something to happen or an agreement to do something. Ladies, do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Definition?
Pretty
definition.
standard.
Yeah. It seems like all of us understand what consent is.
Yeah.
But do we all agree that, let's say, not everyone understands the meaning of consent?
100%.
Yeah.
Not
100%.
Once upon a time, I probably didn't know what consent was until I got older and I was like, oh, that wasn't really a good situation, was it? Do you know what I mean? So
You learn the difference between coercion and consent as you grow up, and it's an amazing thing when you actually realise that all the things you thought were okay, actually, and how you felt at the time, maybe, you would have been anxiety with the things you felt, actually, there's a reason because there was no consent involved.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So...
I love that I have you here, you're on the ball, because I do have coercion. I can't even say it, I can say coercion.
Did you say correct?
Coercion. I was trying to drop the French, but
I heard it coming.
coerce. I'll stick to that. What is the definition of coercion? Maya?
Coercion.
Coercion.
Esther? You guys heard it from people who can say it. The definition of that, again, from the internet, just to simplify it, the practice of persuading someone to do something that they're not willing to do. This can be done through force, threat, or guilt. And so, as B was saying, is as she got older, she has to understand the difference between consent and
Coercion.
Thank you again for helping me out with that word. Have we all experienced a form of coercion?
Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
100%.
100%. Not that we all know at the time,
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Being able to identify when it's happening, and then what we're now going through in our generation or in our time is now having a lot more conversations or hearing a lot more conversations around it, and then having to think back and being like, oh wait, so that situation may have actually been something that this is kind of fitting into this scenario. But I can understand if there's still some level of discord in regards to accepting that actually happened, because then it means looking at the whole scenario, the whole kind of culture around how we interact, especially as a black community.
It would also mean having to question yourself as well. Like, have I ever coerced anyone into something? Because when you don't necessarily think it's wrong, when it happens to you, you tend to pass on that behaviour onto someone else. What does being coerced look like to you, Esther? For example, can you give us an example?
Okay, I think this is quite probably a common one.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's just say you and a partner, doing something, and maybe they want to take it further, but you have your apprehensions for whatever reason, and then the person says, oh, but everyone else does it, or do you know what I mean? But we've already done this.
Yeah.
So if I tell people we've done this, then we might as well have done it. You know what I mean? Like, for example, living back in the day about giving oral sex.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you didn't want to have sex. Maybe you can do that, but you didn't want to have sex. Oh, but you've given me head though, or whatever. Like, we might as well do the full thing. You don't want to do the full thing, but they say that, and then you think, oh, might as well. Do you know what I mean? But you actually didn't want to. But if they didn't say that, you know what I mean?
If you ladies don't mind, I'd actually like an example from one of us, because I've got an example and I don't want it to just be us two giving an example. What does being coerced look like to you, Maya?
Can't say I remember a specific incident in my head, but I do remember feeling like I have to almost play a role in this play that was playing out of what this person's desire or expectation was of me. And I think that's probably where we can get lost in it, because as women or as girls, we don't really realize that we're supposed to be also sexually present in an experience. I'll just say present.
Like an active participant.
Yes, rather than I'm a part of making this your dream come true, or your fantasy come true. So I remember for many a times feeling like I have to fulfill your desire of what this is. So it doesn't really matter what I'm kind of going through in this emotional kind of connection with my sexuality right now. I need to get up to speed with what you want. So I feel like whatever conversations was happening around that was definitely, and I dealt with older guys, by the way, so it wasn't a thing where it's just like my age mate. It was a man that kind of understood himself a lot more, and clearly I was in a self-discovery stage, and so therefore the expectation from me was to fulfill their desire, whereas they understood that actually, well, they should have understood actually that this should be a kind of both way kind of thing. So I feel like
power dynamics there already.
It's a huge power dynamic, and I think maybe that's a part of why we find it difficult to understand what consent is, because power kind of gets dashed here and there, and we don't know where the dynamics is supposed to sit.
For me, coercion is pressure. For me, I've learned, the last time I feel like I was in a situation of coercion was when a man we were trying to date, and he was like, I want to see you today. And I said, well, no, I'm not really, and it wasn't even about sex, because we hadn't had sex, so I want to see you today. And I was like, well, no, not really, because I'm busy, I want to have me day. Oh no, but I really want to see you, like, why can't I see you, like, what you doing, and it was pressure and pressure and pressure. And I felt like I'd said to him, like, no, already, and it's about message. And I had to tell him, like, I don't like when you do that. You're making me feel pressured, and when you make me feel pressured, it takes me back to a place as being a survivor of assault. It takes me back to a place of me not having my own say, or me not having my own voice. So with coercion, it's a massive red flag for me. I spot it from a mile away, because it starts with the, I want to see, it starts with the little things. And it builds. So before we've even gotten to what Esther said about the actual sex and, oh, you've done this already, and and you sucked my dick already, or whatever. It's from the, oh, I want to see you, or, oh, are you ready? Or are you busy? Are you I'm busy. I'm chilled. I'm trying to respect my boundaries. So for me, coercion is pressure, and I hate pressure from anybody.
Thank you for putting it that way, because I think it's a good way to kind of highlight that actually these conversations, consent and being coerced, it goes beyond just sexual activities. It manifests itself in other aspects of our lives. You can see whether someone understands consent or not outside of the sexual activity. But in terms of sexual activity, for me, being coerced, one thing that I found very common in my experience and other women's experience as well is the shushing thing, being shushed. I think it was mainly it's more common when you're younger, like, shh, it's alright, shh. You know,
Got you, baby.
Yeah.
You know when you start getting flashbacks?
True. And it's meant to look sexy and cute and Bow Wow music video, and I'm like, this ain't.
Did you say Bow Wow?
Yes.
Like, this ain't what you think it is. Like,
not really.
Like, please don't shush me. Like, if you have to shush anybody during a sexual moment, you don't have consent, except for if, like, the moaning is, like, intense,
it's part of the play,
and maybe you don't want the neighbours to hear you, or your parents are there and you're just trying to keep it down, but they're actually enjoying it. It's different. But if you have to shush someone into kind of giving in, you don't have consent. And I found that was very common, is shh, like, shh, it's alright. Shh.
See, what scares me about this is that hearing men speak about this part of it is interesting, because there seems to be some sort of confusion about what you want or what you really don't want. There's this idea of, you say this, but you don't really want it.
Yes.
You want this, but you don't really. Yeah. And I want to kind of explore, like, what does that mean? Like, how do you then make it clear that this is not foreplay? This is actually no, I don't want to do this. Rather than this, I'm playing hard to get. There's that idea that they have of, you're just playing hard to get.
I think it's the conversation you have before sex, and we do not do that enough. I feel like within the sex positivity world, we are trying to say that a lot, and people still aren't getting it. Speak to each other before you are intimate with each other. Even if it's a one-night stand, before you've even taken off your clothes, what are you into? Are you going to hit me because you're into hitting, or are you going to hit me because you're actually, you know what I mean? Let's have even on the way in the taxi, on the Uber, let's talk. What are you into? What are your kinks? What are you not into? It's so important, because from that you can gauge what the whole situation and scenario is going to be. If I said to you, okay, I'm into BDSM, and when I see I'm going to step on your bollocks, you know what I'm into.
You're like, well,
just a heads up, I'm not into That's not what I'm like. But what I'm saying is have that conversation, because then I can in my head put in whether I want to give consent to you or not. But if we're going to go straight to the da-da-da-da-da, we don't know what we're into. And then we get confused, and then we have this, oh, well, you've done it before. Oh, you want to play hard to get. No, I'm playing hard to get because I don't want to fucking get it, to be honest with you.
That's the part.
That's the part. Yeah. We don't do that enough.
I think also, in regards to what Maya was saying and picking up on what B was saying, I think sometimes it's the social expectations or what you socially know. Too often, I think men expect their views to override women's anyway. Like, naturally. Well, actually, it's that sense of, well, I can convince her what she's playing hard to get. And even if you're saying no, it's kind of like, if someone thinks they can convince you, what they want matters more than what you're saying at the moment, because you're just there to be convinced anyway. So it's like, well, my mom kind of told me that if I keep at it, eventually she says yeah. And they think that's consent, you know? They think, well, eventually she'll give in.
Like you break her down.
Yeah. There's that breaking down ideology.
Yeah.
Ladies, can we discuss that? Is that consent to you? If someone's broken you down.
I take it very personal now. Like, if I've said I'm not interested and you have persisted and you're persistent, I have to make it very clear to you that you're disrespecting me now. As in, I've actually said I'm not interested, because I've realized, in my experience, men have almost sexualized or glorified my I don't want, my no. And it's almost like she really wants it. And it's like, no. I said, you're just a feminist. You know you really want. I'm like, wow. As in, you guys actually take this idea of no in a way of like a challenge. And I'm like, it's not dual of whose will is better. I'm asking you to respect my opinion. So there is that kind of idea of, you say it, but then now your words have been portrayed in this kind of, or they've been placed in this sort of unserious way. And then when you then go to the extent of being extra serious, you're not feeling uncomfortable, because now you're seeming like you might feel like, am I making this a bigger deal than it is?
And then they gaslight you.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Exactly, they sprinkle with a bit of gas, because everything you were just saying resonated with me so much, because I know that situation. Of saying, actually, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I remember being in a situation where, just at a casual party, and the guy came in behind me in the room. I quickly just put my bag down and switch off the lights, and I was like, what are you doing? Why have you switched off the lights? Yeah, switch off the lights. Why are you doing this? And he's like, oh, no, just so it's a bit more comfortable. I said, well, switch on the light. So, oh, no. I said, well, do you want to sexually assault me? No, I did. I did, and see how you giggled, because it was kind of uncomfortable. But I asked him. I said, "Well, do you want to sexually assault me?" And he was like, "No, you're taking it too far." I'm like,
"That is
but
exactly what it is."
I've asked you to do something. You haven't done it. Why are you switching off the light in the room that we're both in? What do you want to do to me? I clearly don't want to do anything with you. And you have to be that serious now, because they almost think everything is a joke, and it's not. Do you want to harm me? I'm asking you a serious question. You have two answers, yes or no. He was like, no, it's not that deep. But I said, well, then switch on the light and get out. And he did. And, I know some people will be like, whoa, I'm not going to. But actually, that situation could have saved me from something. It was a lifesaver in that moment.
Because I often find, not just me, but I think from my experience and other women's experience, sometimes when you're not bold enough to ask such questions, you're then caught up between this is uncomfortable now, even for me, or maybe this will be over faster if I just do it.
Oh God.
And that's the worst kind of sex any one woman can have.
It's just not fair.
That I'm just gonna do it because when I block you after, don't.
The frustration is real.
The frustration is so real because you feel violated, and then there's a sense of betrayal from yourself.
I had to get a guy to understand this when he told me he was basically trying to. So I was trying to explain to him how coercion worked, and he was like, "Yeah, but listen, I've been in a situation where I didn't want to do it, and then a woman said this and said that, and she cried, and she made it seem like I wasn't paying attention to her, and all. I was like, you got coerced," and he was like, "Ah," and I was like, "See, you was about to downplay my concept of coercion because you couldn't accept that you also were coerced, and I think it's not a one-way street; it's a two-way. It's a two-way street. It's like." You can be sexually coerced as a man or a woman, and it's important for men to understand that, so that they don't feel like it's a born right or a normality for them to do it. It's like it can happen to you, and it's uncomfortable for you as well to be pressurized to perform or do something that you don't actually want to do. So why do you feel like it's okay for it to be on the woman's side if you're not okay with it? And I think if we don't highlight something to not be okay for ourselves, we then naturally try and normalize it for someone else.
And I think that's a very important conversation, very, very important part of the conversation is men being coerced and thinking that actually, and glorifying it almost. You know, I ladies, I don't know if you guys can relate to this. Have you guys heard of situations where a guy's telling you a sex experience and you're like,
Oh, 100%. I've got
one. You got raped.
No, listen, there was one of my friends, he was telling me of when he lost his virginity, and he was saying that how basically, him and the girl in the bed, whatever, and, she was like, she was putting it on him basically. And it seemed like he didn't really want to do it, but he just like kind of gave in. And I was like, so she like raped you then? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, if it was the other way around and you made someone have sex with you, what is that? That's rape. There you go. But it's like, even then when it was said, I think as well, even me, like we didn't take it seriously when we were having this conversation.
There's this thing where it seems like society doesn't take men being raped very seriously. And it's very upsetting, actually. As, for me as a mum to a son, it's something that I'm conscious that I'm going to have conversations with him because, as Esther mentioned, I think it's so often, especially black men, when they first speak about their first sexual experience, a lot of it, if not from what I hear, 99.9%, sound like they were coerced or raped. And it's always an older girl.
Woman.
Older girl or other men that try to normalize
or brought in
the grooming of
a young black man. Like I'm sure we heard about there was a Lil
Wayne video,
and then there was what's the other one? I can't say his name. The one that goes on to Little Nas all the time.
Boosie.
Him. What he did to
paying for a sex worker to sleep with his 14-year-old son, I think, on his birthday as a gift.
He's not in jail because what's that called?
This is actually you groomed you actively brought your son into a sexual violation case. For what? Why do we think that is? Why is it that I think we normalize the sexualization violation of young black boys or men?
I think if we think back to the Terry Crews situation where he came out and had said that he was a victim of sexual assault and it was done by a man, a white male, the responses were heartbreaking. People were laughing at him. People were saying, as strong as you are and as big as you are, you let a white man touch you? Instead of people to be like, I'm so sorry. And the thing is, he actually got a lot of black women in support of him being like, we're so sorry to hear this. But black men, even 50 Cent joked about it.
He's not really allowed to be.
But he's not the.
No, of course, but you see, like, if the big people in our world, in our small black world, are being assaulted, and Terry Crews is not a small man, and they're being assaulted, and people are watching them get degraded afterwards. How are our young men supposed to step out and say, "Oh, I've been a victim"? Same like you with your story. I had a friend tell me their story about the first time they had lost their virginity. I said, babe, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you've you've been a victim of, and it's like, don't say that, and it's laughing about it. I was like, no, I need you to understand that I'm not doing this to break you down or anything. I'm doing this so you understand, and you understand the languages, and you understand what I'm saying to you. You've been a victim. I gave him a hug after. He was like, oh, you're making me see that. No, you're not soft. You're a man. You are who you are. But I'm telling you, what your experience was not a normal experience, and it should not happen, and it's not okay. And if you get anything out of this conversation today, take that thing in. This is not normal. Even coercion. We've had people, my podcast, we've had listener letters, and a guy was like, I remember one situation where a guy had said, like, this girl was like, anytime she wanted to really have sex with him, he really wasn't on it. He was still a virgin, but he hadn't told her he was a virgin. Okay. Every time she tried to put him on it, she was like, she used the term, oh, well, are you gay then? That's why you're not having...
Yeah, that's the phrase that gets pushed around.
So then people put homophobia into the mix as well, to shame people in and to coerce and to make people bad, and the pressure again. And then you're having young men having to give in to women because they don't want to seem gay, or they don't want to be this, or they don't want to be weak, or labeled anything. And that's not right.
It almost seems like with men, being coerced is almost like they're teaching you you have to be grateful this is happening. It's like a positive thing. Yeah. You have to be grateful women want you. And so I think that's where the attitude may come from, where men are like, well, no, because it's a great thing. What do you mean it's wrong? Because my whole life I've been told this is what I'm supposed to look forward to.
The word normalize is what I think we need to pay attention to, because when something is normal doesn't mean it's good or bad. We need to really pay attention to that. So when you say something to a man, and most of it will be normalized because it's a part of the patriarchy, right? For them, this is normal. This is okay. And so when you're now breaking it down and you're like, this is not okay. It's normal, but it's not okay. And I think that kind of shifts things for us a bit. That when you sit back and you're like, this is normal in my culture, my society, my background, but it's never been okay. Until you can get to that, it's like, how do you now turn around to like rape victims or sexually abused children? Because that's another big case, isn't it? In these kind of conversation, it's the power dynamics is between someone that knows what they're doing and someone that has no clue what they're doing, and how that shifts between. And you have that around whether it's rape between men and women, children, and it is that the concept of, because we don't openly say it, it then becomes normal in the abnormality of it, and then we just continue in that path, and then bringing it up now feels uncomfortable. And it's like, how do you then address it?
Did you ever see the conversation about a man asking a woman if he can kiss her on the first date? Did you ever see that conversation?
No. Well, is it that video of that awkward? No, it's not.
No, but there was a conversation, I don't know, maybe it might be, but there was a conversation on Twitter a while back where I think a man was like, oh, I asked women on the first dates if I can kiss them before I kiss them. When we're like, that's this, that's that, like, that's rubbish, like, I want a man to just take me and kiss me.
That could actually be very romantic.
It could be romantic.
I've had
some
it.
People,
If there's good chemistry though, I mean,
this is where
but
it
some
goes
people don't
wrong.
know.
This is where, exactly. Thank you. This is where it goes wrong. You should ask if you can kiss them. It's all this, oh, I like the energy of him just taking me. Babe, we have to be very careful with our words.
It goes back to like glamorizing non-consensual acts.
Exactly. I love it when a man grabs me. Okay, but are you two together? Are you in a consensual relationship? What? I love when a man puts me in my place.
That I don't agree with. I think statements like that is part of the problem.
There was nothing to
The glorifying of submission is a
thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
It shows how much submission can be toxic in these
thing.
situations.
Do you know what I mean?
What is my place?
What is my place? Why does he have to forcefully kiss me? Why has he got to grab me to show me he loves me? Why has he got to be a madman to show me consent? Just a little bit. Just, can I kiss you? Can I touch you? Can I do this? Like, can I? I'm not asking you to beg, just talk.
It's so important to understand the idea of consent. And as you guys are speaking, I'm like, no, this is actually so serious. Because when you listen to the concept of foreplay and chemistry, and some of these things aren't words. Some of these things are what we call vibes. It was just a vibe. There's a vibe, right? And being able to pick up each other's body language, right? Being able to pick up each other's body languages and all that kind of stuff. It's like, to what extent do you have an understanding of someone else's understanding of you, but of what you are genuinely putting out there?
Yeah.
It's like, all I have is to be 100% clear about who I am.
Yeah.
And then your perception of me, then we can talk about that. But if I'm half-hearted about how I'm being and presenting myself to you, I'm now creating so many areas of misunderstanding, lack of understanding, just biasness, whatever you're going to decide to do for your own self. So it's like, accountability is a major part of this, because when anything you do in life, you are still present in that consent part. It's like the whole idea of a vampire coming into your house. They can't just come in. You need to give them permission to be there, and being clear about the fact that you hold power to give permission or not. It must start from there. If you know that you have the power to do it, then you're most likely going to know when and not to turn it on and off.
And this is it. So you just reminded me of the next point is being confident sexually. You know, is that because we do know about slut shaming a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of women fall into the idea of being slut shamed and therefore hold back somewhat. So does slut shaming play a part in rape culture, Esther?
No, you know what? I feel like when I was younger, obviously I was kind of fed all the thing that you have to dress a certain way or you'll be perceived a certain way, or if you say a certain thing, someone's going to think of you like that. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I had in my head for quite a while. But deep down, I was like, but that's kind of do you know what I mean? I dress like this because I want to dress like this. I say things because I want to say things. But I think as I grew in my confidence of myself and loving myself, you know, certain things, there's nothing another person could come and tell me about myself that I don't already know. Do you know what I mean? You know, just little things. So I do think, there's comparisons as well, but also sexual, like feeling liberated, feeling confident sexually, you know, is such a big, broad topic because even people, even outside of like rape culture and consent and stuff like that, it's how you feel about yourself without anyone even touching you. And because some people don't even, for whatever reason, might not touch themselves because they feel it's dirty. They feel like they want to do it, but touching themselves, you know, they feel like they've violated themselves.
But that's a religion a little bit then.
Yeah, I mean, but
especially you start thinking about masturbation as dirty and stuff. That's
Well, it comes from somewhere.
It comes from somewhere. I wouldn't say it's just religion though.
No, I think it's culture as well. I think there's different
It's
aspects
culture,
of it.
it's
It's
different
culture,
aspects.
society, religion.
Yeah, there's
it
so
all
many factors
all plays
into
a part in it.
Yeah.
But there's a sense of shame in what you genuinely like sexually or what you should explore sexually. And I feel like when there's a hesitation towards that, you don't know what you should say yes or no to or how.
Yeah. Do you know what? I get what you're saying. I feel like with me, I'm the type of person that I always say like something doesn't align with my spirit in everything, different things. Sometimes like I can be in a room with someone, I was like, I just don't fuck with you. Do you know what I mean? For that reason. And I feel the same way sexually as well. So even going back to when I was younger, I will never forget. I mean, I kind of only realised it was a bad thing like maybe last year.
What was a bad thing?
So I remember this was like uni time, so me and this guy were fooling around and whatnot, and we'd done X, Y, and Z, went to sleep. In the middle of the night, we started doing whatever again and whatnot. And I'd already said I don't want to have sex, like I don't want to do this. Like I just didn't feel right in my spirit to do. I don't know if it's because I felt he was a devil, even he was, but I didn't know he was devil, whatever it was. So I remember thinking, no, I don't want to do it. But when we started doing things again, like, you know, later on, at a later date, he was like, let me just put it in one time. And I was like, no. But
that's being coerced.
Yeah. But the thing is, I said no, but I don't think it doesn't matter how loud I said it. But I remember thinking, I told you before I didn't want to have sex. And he put it in, And I remember crying. And he was like, oh, I didn't mean to make you cry. And
what do you mean to do?
Okay, but this is the thing. I was upset, but I didn't know why I was upset. But something in my spirit was just, I felt, at the time though, I didn't know I felt violated. Do you know what I mean? But I just remember feeling so upset.
Yes.
And I never told anyone, I never really told anyone about it because I just thought it was
a small thing.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And part of me is thinking, I don't think he really meant me to feel that way, regardless of how his intentions were or anything like that. And it was only when I was watching I May Destroy You last year, and me and my friends were just having a conversation. Me and my friends were just having a conversation about it, and then I just remember thinking, I was like, wait, does that mean I've been raped then? Or does that mean I've been assaulted? Oh, do you know what I mean? It made me even just think about all the sexual experience I'd had and how it went down and how it was. And I thought, right, there's actually some of them that I knew deep down in my spirit. It didn't feel right. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what that feeling was, but it didn't feel right. I did it. But I remember thinking, I just don't feel right about this. It's only with age and wisdom and also loving myself and being confident in my sexuality that I realized that wasn't right. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think part of understanding certain things about what is wrong and what is right, what is coercion, what is consent is having an understanding about yourself and your sexuality. And I feel like when we were talking about some of the guys that felt like, well, I wasn't raped, I wasn't coerced, some of them don't even know themselves, know themselves,
tapped out.
What they're doing and stuff like
or what
that.
they're unwilling to do,
or what they're
like, I guess so.
Yeah.
You can do it.
You know what I mean? Or honest about what they like, what they don't like, X, Y, and Z, just because it seems to be the norm. Or do you know what I mean? So I think that is what you said about, you know, being confident in yourself sexually. I think that plays a big part in just the feeling of knowing this is right and this isn't. Do you know what I mean? Because even sometimes now I catch myself saying certain things or doing something because now I have the education, now I have the understanding. Maybe 10 years ago I might not, I might not have understood. You know what I mean? I didn't have I didn't have an excuse of why it was wrong. But now I know. So I think it comes hand in hand with just sex in general, but in particular with what is consent, what is not. Sometimes you clock 10 years later that, wow, this was not right.
And that's what I wanted to add into this, is that it's not a situation where you are born and you know this stuff, because the way of our world is not that way inclined. Think about, scale it all the way back, right? You have a son. I'm sure people have sent you messages like, oh my God, he's going to be a heartbreaker. My son and your daughter, my daughter should be boyfriend and girlfriend. All that little stuff, it's not okay. People think it's harmless, and I know it's cute, and then, my son's future daughter. No.
My son to be a heartbreaker.
It's not. It's not. He's gonna get all the girl. Why are you putting that onto your children? Why are you sexualizing your children from? This kid's gonna be my kid's girlfriend. Why are we doing that so early on in the game? Like, what's going on? To even touch on to the thing that you said earlier, Esther. What was I gonna say? Goodness me. Lord have mercy.
So she was talking about confidence, knowing what you like,
and
realizing maybe 10 years later.
10 years later. Thank you very much. I have been a sex podcaster for almost come up to 5 years. I had an episode on consent where we had some guests in actually, and we spoke about consent. I was recanting a story, and as I'm sitting there, I've had my podcast for a while, as I'm sitting there, I'm telling a story, and they're like, babe, you were sexually assaulted in that situation. And I've got a sex podcast. I'm teaching. I'm talking about these things. And I still had that situation. So that's what I say about time and age. And people think, when I'm older, I'll get it. Or when I'm younger, I'll get it. There's no actual time and date of when you're going to get it. You have to really understand it and really stand in it.
Be open to learning.
Open to learning as well. And that's why I'm so strict about consent, especially with my siblings and my family and my friends and everyone. I'm on it, and I don't play games with it, because sometimes when you do look back, you realize, God, I was in a situation and I felt violated and I did not know how to express it. So the situation I had, I don't mind sharing, it was a situation where we had spoken, we were supposed to go on a date. A couple of hours before the date, can you come to the hotel? Something happened. Came to the hotel. I was tired. I took a nap. Woke up. I woke up because I felt a presence, not on me, but in front of me. Sorry. If you want me to.
No. Proceed. I think it's so good to talk
Okay,
about
so
things.
I felt the presence on me as I'm sleeping. I'm not a light sleeper either. So if I feel your presence, you're breathing on me. And he was like, well, you ready to do it now? And I was like, well, we're supposed to be going out to dinner, we're supposed to be doing this, we're supposed to be doing that. And in the moment where I was like, I shouldn't have put myself in this situation. I shouldn't have been at this hotel. I started blaming myself. I started to blame myself. So as one part of my mind is blaming myself, the physical situation is starting to go. And I'm kind of like, no, I don't really want this. But he's kind of now forced himself. And now I'm just like, where I went blank, I gave up. And I'm just now in that situation where I'm being used almost like a sex pocket. Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking of everything else but the situation. And I remember just telling the girls like, oh yeah, I hated it. I was thinking about Whitney Houston whilst I was doing it. And they were like, no, babe, stop. That was assault. You were sexually assaulted. You didn't want it. You said you didn't want it. And you're living through it. And I remember just being like, fuck. I was like, do I delete all this? Like, do I delete all this audio?
There's that feeling as well, wasn't it? Of you picked up on that thing and you're like, oh, let's just take this all away because then I have to deal with it.
I can't throw it away because this is the truth of what I experienced. And my listeners are coming to the realization as I'm coming to the realization. I have to be honest within myself. We all make mistakes, but one thing we cannot do is blame ourselves for being in these situations.
Because it's always the perpetrator's fault. It's always the person who acts on it's fault. It's never the person who is done to.
It's really important to understand that.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because you engage with human beings, okay? And so to what extent do you know someone else's true intention? Do you know what I'm saying? So, and then we hear this a lot with people like, why you shouldn't have been there, you should have been doing this. When you got there and you were doing this, there was something about you trusting what the person was portraying to you that you was okay with. There wasn't one swinging a dick around like, you sure you want to just chill with me? Like, you know? No, there was...
Some people even do that.
But there are times when it's like, dinner is dinner, chilling is chilling, as we said, right? If you're saying we're coming to chill and chilling means to you an opportunity to do X, Y, Z, then you're not being honest. And then you're going to be disappointed at the fact that I'm going to be on some no. But then why do we have to have that conflict of I want it, you don't? Like, it's just uncomfortable.
Do you see how in her situation, it's like, I'm not going to say pre-planned, but like, if you were going out and he's saying, oh no, come here first, that thought was in his head, oh, maybe we could do something.
For him, it must have been.
But for her, it's kind of like, do I have to now gauge with it? Because this is the thing. And this is where the gaslighting comes in. Because guys will be on some, you're overthinking it. That's what they love to do.
But you came to the hotel.
You knew. Like, but come on now.
What do people do at hotels?
Yeah. And it's like,
sleep.
You know? So it's like, I like to now put myself in a position where it's like, I said what I said, and I mean what I mean. And I try to teach this to my sisters and say what you say, mean what you mean. How they behave and behave, that's their problem. And you have to find confidence in it. And I think that's what sometimes we're afraid of, because there is a part of us that wants them to like us or whatever the case may be, but you're not willing to you don't realize that that's what you have to give up. And even when you go through it, then you're like, what just happened? Because you wasn't actually willing to do that, but then you've somehow found your way in a position when it's happened now, and now you're feeling a bit powerless, because then how do I take that back? Because they blame you for being in the situation in the first place.
I just want to make it very clear for any woman or men out there, or non-binary people that may have experienced something like this, or, first of all, the ones who have experienced something like this, it's not your fault. There's nothing that you could have done differently. When people decide to act out something, they've already had that intention without your permission, and this is why it's important to have the consent. When someone is doing something without your consent, there is nothing that you could have done to prevent it. There is absolutely nothing. And for people who haven't experienced this, be mindful, be careful. Not everyone has the same intentions as you, because it seems like there has to be ways that we have to protect ourselves.
I was going to say, you said protect. It's like, there's nothing you could have done but defend yourself, and that still shouts and screams. To be in a situation where you have to defend yourself makes it very clear that this shouldn't be happening. Because why am I having to defend myself with someone that I'm being vulnerable with? Because sexuality is a big vulnerability.
It's important to remember that it's a reaction. There was an action that took place, and you're simply reacting to something that's taken place. And it's important to remember that when we go into the thoughts of self-blaming ourselves, looking back, the guilt is actually, I was reacting. It was, something happened, and then I'm either trying to protect myself or trying to cope in a way, And so I wanted to ask ladies, what advice or what tips or any encouraging words do you guys have for anyone out there who's experienced anything that we've talked about, any sort of consent violation, in other ways, sexual violation, rape, any of the above, or anyone who's actually supporting someone who has gone through it?
Do you know, I think it's really important to one, as I said before, if something does not feel right for whatever reason, sometimes you don't even know the reason. Sometimes whether it be if religious, you think God is telling you something, or a parent, or something, a gut feeling, like something doesn't feel right. You feel like that for...
You're just not in the present.
Yeah, you feel like that for a reason. Yeah, so don't ignore that. Don't just think I'm overreacting or da-da-da. And also, I think it's important sometimes, not just in this regard, but just in general, sometimes you have to say things out loud to realize how mad something is or ridiculous something is, whether it be to yourself, whether it be relaying the story to somebody else, and be like, that doesn't make sense, or this wasn't, do you know what I mean? Like, that's, do you know, like, just us talking, when we're talking, people's faces are like, do you know what I mean? But if you, that's what I'm saying, sometimes you need to say things out loud for you to understand if
in that moment,
this, whether it makes sense or it sounds stupid or do you know X, Y, and Z? Because I feel like even with the story I told, I never said anything about it until last year. Do you know what I mean?
I would say use your voice. Use your voice. That's my tip. Use your voice. That is your strongest weapon. Shout, scream, make them know that what they're doing is shameful. Make them uncomfortable. Do not make that person comfortable. Make that person feel how you feel. If you feel vulnerable, tell that person, you're making me feel weird. It's you, at the end of the day. You have to sit with yourself. I know some of the screams and shouts and questions I've asked people have made them feel bad, but it's good because you tried to make me feel bad. So speak up, use your voice, and speak to others. Don't hold it within yourself, and don't blame yourself. That's my one take on anything. Do not blame yourself and speak. I know it's hard. It's hard to find your voice, especially as women, but you have to.
Absolutely. Thank you, B. Maya, what advice?
Sorry, the girls are just taking me far away. I would say these two things are so important, your voice and your spirit. They are the closest thing to you before an outside person is there. And so being present in yourself is going to be your life-saving grace in any situation in life. Find peace with who you are internally, energetically, so that when you are sharing yourself with someone, and I think that's so important to know that you are sharing yourself with someone, not giving, never giving, always sharing. That then keeps you alert to the fact that you are participating or supposed to be participating in anything that is a give and take with other people. That way your say, your feelings, your voice, your spirit is a part of the conversation that you're having with this other person, rather than muting yourself to engage with whatever thing that you are experiencing with someone else. Be present in any situation, every single time, mentally, spiritually, you must be there in order to participate.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you, B. Thank you, Maya, and thank you, Esther. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in today. Just to close us in, I want to thank everyone again for taking part in this conversation. I understand that this can be very triggering for some people, and some people may be triggered as we're talking about things. So we will put some organisation and contact details that you can contact to help you manage through this moment for you. And also, I just want to highlight the importance of why it's important to actually teach children consent. As we're sitting here as full adults, a lot of us are talking about not realising that we were violated until later on. Whereas if we were equipped with the knowledge to know what is consent, what is coercion, and so on, we would have somewhat of an idea of what's taking place and would react to it in time. And I think also it would help the other person, the perpetrator, acknowledge what they're doing, because we seem to have a culture of where some rapists don't know they're rapists or use it as an excuse. And we almost can't blame them, because we can't go back to a time where we can point out, actually, we all learned this in secondary school. And so teaching children important stuff like this actually gives us a reference to hold people accountable and to protect people as well. Once again, thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Thank you for your support. Anyone who has experienced anything that's mentioned here, we're sending you lots of love and lots of hug. And please do remember to not blame yourself. You are not responsible for what has happened to you. The responsibility of the action always falls on the person that demonstrated and took on that action first. It's never on the person who is violated. We wish you guys lots of healing and lots of love. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and teach everyone consent. Teach your children, your adults, your parents, your grandparents consent, and the importance of not coercing anyone into anything, even outside of sex. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.